Hey, what's up guys? Sam here. And I'll be doing the free video for Friday, July 28th, 2023. So another week is in the books. We go into next week. It remains a live week, meaning that there are still some companies that you may have heard of reporting earnings next week, namely Apple and Amazon. And there are also going to be a couple of market-moving central bank decisions. So you'll have the Aussie Bank, you'll have the BOE, you'll be getting some jobs numbers next week. So it's going to be a live week, certainly, and it's also going to be, the last trading day of July, which is usually like the second most bullish month of the year. So as we go into August, just be aware that August and September tend to see a little bit of movement higher in the volatility. They tend to just not be as simple, straight up months as April or July typically are. But we just finished doing the premium video for the folks in the gold room, and we covered the indices, and we covered a lot of where I think risk might be hiding. Maybe bonds, maybe yen, maybe dollar. Maybe there's risk in the VIX, but nothing really stood out to me too much. And the one thing that kept popping up is just using yesterday's candle as kind of a reference point, whether it's on the QQQ or whether it's on the IWM or the SPX. It doesn't really matter. Yesterday's candle, you had this kind of up move, and then you had this huge down candle yesterday, and then today you have a little bit of an inside day on that giant candle, right? What is an inside day? It just means that it traded inside the high, between the high and the low of the previous candle. So basically it ends up looking like this, where you have a giant candle and today's candle trades inside of that range. So we don't actually have a ton of additional information here, but what we do have is just the chart has been marked, and the mark of the chart is now going to be yesterday's high and yesterday's low. So in the event that we on Monday or at any point next week take out on a closing basis yesterday's high, then there's certainly juice here for continuation. You do have 4-hour squeezes to work with, and I would imagine that you're going to get a nice little bit of a chasing rally that could actually go quite vertical in the event that we take out yesterday's high. In the event that we take out 75.66, and although I won't show it to you in this video, I highly encourage you to put a line on your chart at 75.66 on QQQ, and then drill down on your own onto an hourly time frame just to see how much that level was tested. You can't really appreciate it here on the daily, but it was like on an hourly chart, it's like tested like 10 times, including very heavily yesterday, and it is holding. So as long as the 75.66 level is intact, then the bias has to remain higher because the signals here have not changed. Everything looks continually good. You are, 3 ATR is tradition. But until you get a structural break of 75.66 on the QQQ, I think you have to look at this thing long. The cool thing is, because that was basically the low yesterday, that 75.66 level also works in line with the idea of bracketing yesterday's candle on whatever it is that you're looking at, whether it's the Qs, the SPX, Apple, Datadog, whatever it is, and using that as a breakout or breakdown reference point. So with that said, I'm going to throw a couple of picks your way really fast and loose. A couple of things that have been coming up in the rooms that I think we've already done the work on that look ready to go. Some of these will be A+ setups. Some of these are just straight up breakout patterns. I would consider Baidu an A+ setup, but that does not mean it does not work in a big way. I'd be looking for a breakout here above 160 pretty swiftly. And frankly speaking, I think that this could break out and get to about 175 above 160. So good alignment here. One of the better looking China names. You're getting a push higher from the KWeb as well. So this is a nice play on that. Another one's going to be ADI. This one's more of an A+ setup, right? Because it actually has full alignment across the board. A weekly high compression squeeze. It's trying to break out with buy signals. You have a breakout pattern here. You've been consolidating below that 198 level for some time. And I think that ADI here is on its way to be a $200 stock and running. So this one would be an A+ setup. It's going to move less than Baidu, but it's a better setup overall. Another one is going to be Crowd. So this one's a little bit kind of in the middle between Baidu in terms of the quality. I wouldn't call this an A+ setup necessarily, but it's a better setup than Baidu. Not as good as ADI, but it's more explosive than ADI and less explosive than Baidu. So you can see that, you try to walk this balance of is it an A+ setup that'll move a little bit more slowly, or is it kind of maybe an A or B+ setup that has more explosivity? I would probably put Crowd in that camp. But I would be looking for a push here and a breakout also above 160 here on Crowd based on the daily squeeze and the alignment. That all looks pretty good to me. One that needs a pullback is LYB, but I would say that this one's actually going to have a very good chance of breaking out, especially based on the weekly time frame. It is extended here in the near term, so a pullback as close as possible to 95 would certainly be helpful. Boeing, I think, is going to be a $280 stock very quickly here. You've had this really long weekly bull flag in play. You got buy signals and a high volume breakout that triggered the squeeze. So basically looking at this as a retest of this previous swing high, right around 280. Right? Because now that you've broken out of this, you look to target that previous swing high. So that all looks quite good. A couple more here. Just throw them fast and loose at you. WDay. Nice little breakout pattern here. I like this one because it actually has a run into earnings potential. Not everything has a good run into earnings back test, but this one does. So earnings is coming up here pretty soon on this, and it actually tends to run about 5 to 8% before the report. So I think you'd be looking at about 250 here on WDay. Very nice looking squeeze. And lastly, and there's a lot, so just because I'm not naming something doesn't mean it doesn't qualify. There's just so many setups out there. It's something like Tech, TECK. So this one already had earnings. Maybe I should have bought it today, actually, now that I'm looking at it, because this one looks pretty damn ready to go right here. And it's not too far away from the buy zone. So this one's kind of a variation of LYB. You could argue whether it's better or not, but actually, this is going to be pretty high on my list to buy it pretty soon, probably on Monday, because it is near buy zone. I'm seeing all the right things. It's already reported, so I like that. And I think I have one more. Let's see, what is it? I'll give you a cheapie as a shout out to my good friend TG. A cheapie, but a good one. KC. So KC here kind of has to me, I would say this is kind of a double bottom kind of thing going on there with a much higher low. It doesn't really matter how you slice it. If you look at it like a cup and handle, it doesn't matter. Really, as long as you understand that that's your breakout level and volume is coming in, squeeze is aligned, probably has high short interest. If you like cheap stocks, KC looks to be a very decent play on that. So just a couple picture away, because I know the YouTube loves the pics and they love the cats. So I don't have a cat, but I have some pigs. So that wraps up the video, guys. Hopefully it was helpful. Again, the main thing I would go back to is just understand that the previous high from yesterday's high and the previous low from yesterday's low are the reference points for the breakout of the next move. If you happen to get a closing break above yesterday's high, then that sets up the QQQ to test 400. If you happen to get a break of that low, that's a very significant low on the QQQ, and it would actually set up a pullback a little bit deeper than that. So as we go into next week, also understand that the seasonality, the tailwinds from the seasonality turn into headwinds. So do be mindful of that, and continue to watch the dollar 101 on the Dixie, because you do want to see that level be broken to the downside to help the bullish case in stocks. All right, guys, that's my time. Have a great Friday, great weekend, and I'll catch you here again next Friday.
Hey traders, this is Sam with Simpler Trading. I want to thank you for watching today's video. Hopefully you found the information in it helpful. If you did, leave us a like, leave us a comment. It really does help us out with the algorithm. And if you want to see us trade live with our own real money and be part of the community, come and check us out at simplertrading.com.